Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mesothelioma UK's fourth Facebook Live session. My name's Liz Darlison. I'm Head of Services at Meso UK and Consultant Nurse at the University Hospitals of Leicester. Thank you to those people that have sent some questions in. I'll get to those shortly. First of all, I'd just like to say I hope you all had a lovely Easter. I think the beautiful weather that we had mostly across the country made it all the easier to stay at home and stay safe. I'm going to recap on a few things this week, if you'll allow me to. The first thing I just wanted to recap on is an issue about access to anti-cancer treatment for cancer patients, and NHS England have asked all of the cancer charities to reiterate, and I can honestly vouch for this. You know, I do work clinically in an NHS hospital, so this is absolutely the case. There is not an issue with capacity within the NHS for cancer patients. And so if you have any concerns at all, then you please must still access your normal care team at your NHS hospital. And if your treatment schedule has been altered at all, I really do want to reassure you that is not because there is a capacity issue. It's because your care team have looked at your situation individually and assessed the risks and benefits of the treatment programme that was scheduled for you, or that you were in the midst of, or the clinical trial. And if they have made an alteration to that schedule, it's because it's what they consider to be in your best interest in terms of safety and risk. So it is absolutely not a capacity issue. I also just wanted to really just have a little bit of a nag again about exercise. You know, I work really closely with a clinical trial team here, and what I can tell you is that in the background, the clinicians are still developing new clinical trials and are, you know, hopeful to get these trials through the approval processes once we get through this COVID crisis. And we will get through this COVID crisis, and we will hopefully be back to business as usual. And the clinical trial teams are developing clinical trials in the background. And it's absolutely paramount that when we get through this situation, that you retain your fitness as much as you possibly can. So please, please, please look after your fitness as much as you can. Exercise every single day, 2 or 3 times a day. We're really grateful to Julie Roberts, who has been preparing some exercise footage for us to put out on our social media site. So please do look at those. Meso movement footage by Julie Roberts. But whatever it is that helps you to keep active, please, please, I can't stress enough how important it is for you to retain your activity levels. Also think about up here, you know, being socially isolated through the restrictions that we're all adhering to. Can be a bit like a dripping tap on your emotional well-being, on your spiritual well-being. So whatever you can to keep yourself connected and keep yourself communicating, whether that's through social media, picking up the phone, getting relatives to come and stand the other side of the window, it doesn't really matter. But please, please do look after your mental health during these periods of social isolation. And then the other thing I just wanted to signpost people to are the telephone call consultation checklist that Mesothelioma UK have prepared. So all of your usual disease surveillance consultations, and sometimes even new patient consultations, will all be by telephone currently, and that's to protect you more than anything. So your cancer clinicians, whether that be nurse specialists, nurse consultants, oncologists, respiratory physicians, thoracic surgeons, all of your follow-up appointments now will be by telephone call. And so just to help with that, Mesothelioma UK have prepared some consultation checklists. There's one for clinicians and there's one for patients, just to help get the best out of that telephone call, just as a prompt and a reminder. So we've prepared those. They are downloadable from our website, available on our social media, or just give us a call on the usual 0800 169 2409 number, and we'll get a copy of that to you, just to help you with that. I also would just like to remind people about how to stay out of hospital. Again, this is all about protecting you from the exposure to COVID-19. But also just as a quick reminder about generally good practice to keep you out of hospital, because you know everyone wants to stay at home, but it's always in people's best interest to stay at home irrespective of the COVID situation. So if you have any concerns, any signs or symptoms that are worrying you, please do not sit on them. Please don't think that you don't want to bother us because we're inundated with workload or patient problems back at the hospital. That is not the case. Your normal cancer care team are there for you, your key worker, and of course Mesothelioma UK is as well. So if you have any concerns at all about signs or symptoms, just please pick up the phone, drop us an email, and let's just have a little talk about it and just see if we need to do any investigations or think about getting you checked over. Make sure you keep a good supply of your regular medication. If you're on regular painkillers, please ensure that you have the next step up available as well. So if you're already maxing out on your painkillers and taking the maximum dose, then just have a little chat with somebody about getting something in reserve for if your pain breaks through that pain relieving regime that you've been having. And then finally, CT scans. So yes, we are recommending that people do still attend for their CT scans. If you are concerned about that and you want to talk about it, then give your key worker a call, or of course you can always ring Meso UK. But generally speaking, we are advising people to still attend for their CT scans. We are some hospitals have got separate arrangements, but generally speaking, what we're recommending is that people attend for their CT scans, arrive just before your appointment time. Attend alone where possible if you can. So if someone is driving you, get them to wait in the car and just drop you off at the door. Make sure you observe the hand hygiene. So make sure that you wash your hands, sing happy birthday twice through in your head while you're washing your hands. And as soon as you've had your CT scan, please leave the hospital, hand hygiene again. And it is likely now that your results will be by a telephone call consultation rather than a face-to-face. So we're still encouraging you to attend for those CT appointments. I've also been asked just to remind you that the benefits and financial compensation advice services from the asbestos support groups or from any of the Mesothelioma UK benefits advisors and indeed from Veterans UK, they are all still available to you. They have all adapted and are working in new ways now, virtually using telephone calls, video conferencing. And the DWP, who authorise a lot of the benefits payments, the DWP have actually relaxed some of their application requirements now to assist with the virtual working. So please, again, don't sit on your benefits or compensation concerns. Please do keep them active. It can all be done by telephone. Mesothelioma UK has now got a panel of 8 law firms that we're working with, and each of those have confirmed that they are working as normal, albeit from home and virtually by telephone call, but they still are processing claims for potential compensation. So I've got a few questions now that I just wanted to run through. We've had quite a few calls from people who have had problems navigating the government's system for getting on the vulnerable list for COVID-19. And as I'm sure you're all aware, Mesothelioma UK is not specifically mentioned on that vulnerable list. But what we're suggesting as clinicians, and we've spoken to other mesothelioma experts as well, is that we would consider that mesothelioma patients should be shielding and consider themselves as being vulnerable. So if you have not received your letter, and they have been coming out in dribs and drabs because some have come from GPs, some have come from hospital settings, so you may have got your letter quite late, and some of you may have not got that letter at all. So if you want to have yourself put on that vulnerable list, our understanding is that you go through your hospital team or your GP. But we are posing to NHS England today. So we have a conference call with NHS England today. And Mesothelioma UK, as you know, has 25 specialist nurses, and none of us have been given any advice about how to have patients put on that vulnerable list. So we are going to be asking that question today. The Meso UK team have also tried to navigate the system on your behalf just to get some experience of that. And we agree, it is not straightforward. We don't really understand how to get on that vulnerable list, because some GPs are actually saying they don't know how to do it. And certainly as key workers, we're not sure how to do it. So watch this space. As soon as we get some feedback from NHS England, we'll be posting that. What I can say is that the benefits of being on that vulnerable list are quite limited, I guess, in that it's food parcels, help with getting access to your prescription medicines and shopping, and having someone check on you. So if you are a person who has not got somebody else to do that for you, so if you have not got good neighbours or a community team that are offering those services, or family members, then please don't feel isolated. Pick up the phone to your key worker, or pick up your phone to Mesothelioma UK, and we will do everything we can to connect you with people who can help you. And once we find out a little bit more about getting on that vulnerable list for mesothelioma patients, we will share that with you. I do have to say as well that somebody who is on that vulnerable list did try and use the fact that they're on the list to get access to a shopping home delivery service, and it didn't make any difference. There still weren't any home delivery services available. So I think, in summary, the benefits of being on the list are limited. I think we should reserve the benefits for those people who really do not have family, friends, a good neighbour, or a community scheme available to them. And if you fall into that category and you are feeling isolated and you need help, please, you are not alone. Pick up the phone to Mesothelioma UK, and we will do everything we can to connect you. Another question that we've been asked is about transport for accessing clinical trials. So if people were already on a clinical trial prior to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, then for a proportion of patients, and a majority of patients, they have remained on that clinical trial. Some people have to travel quite a distance to be able to continue on that treatment. And so, and they're very worried about using public transport for that purpose. So what we just wanted to advise people that if you are continuing on a trial and you have those concerns, then please pick up the phone to your trial team. It may be possible, depending on what the drug is, for them to do your consultations virtually by telephone or video conferencing, and then have the medication delivered to you. If it does require a hospital attendance, because the drug is not by mouth, it's an intravenous drug, or because you need tests or investigations, then again, pick up the phone to your trial team. And we certainly as a charity have been supporting patients with the additional costs of using taxis as opposed to using public transport. So basically, where there is a will, there is a way. Pick up the phone to your key worker, pick up your phone to Mesothelioma UK, and we will help you to organise a system of getting to the hospital where necessary that minimises the risk to you. Another question we've been asked is that patients have said, have asked us, are we aware that doctors have been phoning patients and asking them if they wanted to be admitted to, if they would be admitted to hospital during the coronavirus pandemic? And we're not aware of that, so no, but thank you for raising that to us, and we're not sure what the reason is behind that. At all costs, what we would say is that we would want you to avoid being admitted to hospital where at all possible. And we've explained a number of measures to enable you to avoid that. We are aware of some GPs phoning patients currently to talk to them about do not attempt resuscitation orders. And we've had a couple of comments from patients, and some of our nurses have had calls from their patients about this. So I just wanted to just shed a bit of light on this and perhaps demystify the do not resuscitate orders that, you know, in hospital settings, these are issues that we have to face with patients. Patients are always at the centre of that conversation. So unlike other countries, in the UK, a DNA CPR order is the responsibility of the patients have to be at the centre of that conversation, and doctors are responsible for making that order. And it is done usually, always I would say, with the patient's best interests at heart. It simply means that if all else fails, if all treatment fails, all attempts to improve somebody's physical health should fail, do we want to take that final step and attempt a resuscitation? And usually doctors will have that conversation with somebody when, through experience and evidence, we know that a resuscitation attempt at that stage would be quite futile. So these are difficult conversations that we have in the hospital setting quite often, and I think GPs with the best intentions have been picking up the phone to their patients who they consider to be vulnerable to try and have that conversation, because they know the patient best and they want to have that difficult conversation with their patient, rather than a patient ending up in hospital, possibly with COVID, and a healthcare team who don't know that patient, don't know their background, don't know about that patient's frailties and other health problems in the same way that their GP does, and having to make that decision at the time, or going through what can be a very challenging clinical experience when the outcome would be futile. So I think that is probably why GPs have been picking up the phone, and medicine in a pandemic is a very different backdrop to medicine without a pandemic. And so these conversations, it's always with the patient's best interest at heart, but unfortunately sometimes it's felt a little bit rushed, or a little bit out of the blue, or a little bit inappropriate. And so, you know, I apologise if people have had that experience. I'm absolutely certain that GPs have been doing it because they want to put the patient at the centre of that decision making, as they would be in a non-pandemic medical situation. If it's something that's been on your mind, then what I would urge you to do is have a little look at the Compassion in Dying website, and we will post a link to this on our social media and on our website, because on the Compassion in Dying website there's some really useful tools to think about this for yourself. They are tools about advanced decisions and living wills, and in those tools you can actually make it clear what your preferences would be. And in most situations, most rational people would want everything going to preserve life or to improve the health problem that has had them admitted. So yes, please, I want antibiotics. Yes, I want oxygen therapy. Yes, I want you to give me fluid. Yes, I want you to feed me. Yes, I want pain relief. But if all of that fails, and the reason that I was admitted to hospital continues to cause me to physically deteriorate, then I absolutely don't want a cardiac arrest resuscitation attempt. So that's the kind of documentation that you can find on that website. So you in a DNR order, you are not saying I don't want all of those things. What you're saying is I want all of that, but the final straw is I don't want to have a resuscitation attempt. So yes, you want pain relief. Yes, you want antibiotics. Yes, you want fluids. Every medication going to support you. So please do have a look at that website, and we will post a link to the website on our social media and on our website. And again, as with anything, if you are really concerned about this, if you've had a conversation with your GP and it didn't go as well as you'd expected, or indeed if it went well, let us know. And if you would like to talk it through with one of the Meso UK nurses, give us a call, or of course call your key worker. So I think that's all the questions we've been asked since our last live Q&A. Please keep your questions coming in. I did just want to share one piece of information with you. So the progress of the approval of any new clinical trials has been paused briefly because of COVID research taking priority. Now, that's not to say that the people who develop clinical trials, our doctors and our scientists who are developing these trials, they're still developing them, but they haven't applied to go through the approval processes because all priority has been given to COVID research. And I was at a meeting just last week with the Clinical Research Network team, and I'm absolutely flabbergasted to hear that there has been over 300 applications for approval processes for clinical trials, for clinical research into COVID-19. And that's astonishing in such a short space of time. And I checked this morning, and currently 27 clinical trials are up and running and open for COVID-19, and they are looking at everything from a vaccine to ventilation to the effect of COVID on children with immune suppressing disorders, to the effect of COVID-19 on pregnant women. Some of them are observational. There's a whole plethora of clinical trials up and running. Now, when you think clinical trials normally take weeks and weeks, even months to go through the approval processes, and the average approval time for these clinical trials has been 10 days. Now, that is astounding. The amount of effort being put into finding better treatments and better outcomes for this virus is absolutely phenomenal. And if we look at what has been achieved through research in other health problems, if we just look at HIV, for instance, the disease that we thought was going to wipe out a whole generation in the 80s, and now it's completely controlled. People, no longer need to die of HIV and AIDS. So if we look at what has been achieved in just these last few weeks, it's pretty astounding. I can also tell you that I am based in the Midlands, in a very, very busy teaching hospital. And there have been issues about PPE. There is no question about that. Access to PPE for healthcare professionals is a major concern. But in terms of capacity and managing this crisis within the NHS, I'm astounded at how structured, how well organised, and how well capacity has kept pace with demand. So if you need support and help, and when I say you, I'm talking to mesothelioma patients specifically now, if you should run into problems with your mesothelioma or with COVID-19 or any other health problem for that matter, there is capacity there for you in the NHS. Even dealing with all of the problems of the pandemic, there is still capacity. And if you should have problems with COVID-19, there is a healthcare team waiting to help and treat you and do everything they can to manage that COVID-19, irrespective of your other healthcare problems. And there's plenty of clinical trials there as well, which is always good news, because all clinical trials have to be good news, because they are the stepping stones to finding better treatments and better outcomes. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for those of you that have joined us live. Please stay home and stay safe. Look after all your health problems, whatever they are. Don't sit on any concerns or questions. Pick up the phone, reach out to your key worker, reach out to Meso UK, because we are here for you. We'd be really glad to have you support us. The whole Meso UK team, from the trustees, the nurses to the operational team, are doing a 5,000 kilometre, 5-week exercise challenge, and you can find us on Facebook and on Just Giving, because we really do need your support as well. So if you have any donations you'd like to offer us on that basis, please do look on our website for that. The NHS is coping from the viewpoint that I have. I am astounded, and if you do have any problems, there are healthcare teams there waiting to help you. A quick reminder: all of your treatment decisions are based on what's best for you. They're not based on capacity at all. And as always, any questions or concerns, please, please, please pick up the phone. Do not try and battle your way through without support, because that's what we're here for. And we're only too glad to help you in any way. Stay well, and please get out in the sunshine. and enjoy some fresh air as much as you can while staying safe. All right, take care. Bye-bye.